Geopolitical tensions in Southeast Asia have been a major global concern in recent years, particularly with territorial disputes in the South China Sea. One of the most prominent conflicts is between China and the Philippines, two countries that both claim ownership over several strategically important and resource-rich islands and reefs. This situation is further complicated by the involvement of major powers such as the United States, which has a defense treaty with the Philippines, as well as other ASEAN countries with vested interests in the region. Welcome to Military Role. This channel is the ultimate destination for those interested in the military world, war strategies, and battle history. Here we will discuss various fascinating topics about the military from around the world, ranging from legendary battle analyses to the latest military equipment and technology. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our latest updates. The potential for a war between China and the Philippines is not something to be taken lightly. Although both countries have significant economic relations, territorial disputes and rising nationalism could trigger a devastating military conflict. A war in the South China Sea would not only involve the military forces of both sides, but also impact regional and global stability. The repercussions would be felt across various sectors, from disrupted global economies and international trade routes to potential humanitarian crises stemming from waves of refugees and war casualties. We will explore various scenarios that might unfold if a war between China and the Philippines were to break out. By considering the imbalanced military strengths, broad economic impacts, and complex social and geopolitical implications, we will examine how this conflict could affect not only the two nations involved, but also the entire Southeast Asian region and the international community. Through comprehensive analysis, it is hoped that we can understand the critical importance of diplomatic efforts and peaceful resolutions in avoiding the potential disaster that could arise from this conflict. Background of the conflict. Tensions between China and the Philippines are primarily driven by territorial disputes in the South China Sea, a strategic area rich in natural resources and crucial trade routes. China claims nearly the entire South China Sea based on the 9-dash line, which is not internationally recognized, while the Philippines claims parts of the area based on the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS. The dispute escalated after the Philippines won an international arbitration case in 2016, which ruled that China's claims had no legal basis. However, China rejected the ruling and continued to strengthen its military presence in the region. Military implications. With a much larger military budget, China has a vastly superior navy and air force compared to the Philippines. China's fleet of warships, submarines, fighter jets, and air defense systems is among the largest and most advanced in the world. Additionally, China possesses cutting-edge military technology, such as anti-ship ballistic missiles and cyber warfare capabilities that could cripple the enemy's communication and defense systems. The Philippine military is smaller and less equipped, though it has some critical assets and support from allies like the United States. The Philippines has limited naval and air forces, and much of their military equipment is relatively old and not comparable to China's advanced technology. Strategy and tactics. Likely to use its technological superiority to launch precision strikes, maritime blockades, and air dominance, China may also employ maritime militia fishing boats and Coast Guard ships to pressure the Philippines without triggering open military conflict. This tactic, known as gray zone warfare, involves using non-military means to achieve military objectives. Would likely adopt a defensive stance, leveraging the geography of their islands and employing guerrilla warfare tactics and support from international allies. the Philippines might avoid direct confrontation with China's superior forces, focusing more on territorial defense and international support. Economic impact. The South China Sea is a major global trade route, with about a third of global maritime traffic passing through it annually. A war would disrupt the flow of goods and commodities, affecting not just the two countries, but also other nations dependent on this route. Such disruption could lead to spikes in oil and gas prices and disrupt global supply chains. The conflict would likely trigger economic sanctions from various countries and international organizations, especially if it escalates and involves major powers like the United States and its allies. Economic sanctions on China could have a significant impact, given its position as one of the world's largest economies. Similarly, the Philippines would also suffer economically due to its reliance on international trade and foreign investment. Social and humanitarian impact. Any war would result in casualties among both military personnel and civilians. Fighting in the South China Sea could cause significant loss of life in coastal areas and disputed islands. Additionally, there would be waves of refugees seeking safety in neighboring countries such as Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam. War would lead to a major humanitarian crisis, with a need for medical aid, food, and shelter for those affected. Critical infrastructure, such as hospitals, schools, and public facilities, could be destroyed or rendered inoperable due to the conflict. International organizations like the UN and the Red Cross would likely be involved in providing humanitarian aid. Geopolitical impact. The United States has a mutual defense treaty with the Philippines, which means they might become directly involved if the Philippines is attacked. This could lead to a major escalation and involve other global powers. U.S. involvement could provoke reactions from China's allies, such as Russia, further complicating the situation. ASEAN countries and other regional powers like Japan, India, and Australia might also become involved diplomatically or militarily, seeking to stabilize the situation or protect their interests. ASEAN might attempt to mediate and find a peaceful solution to avoid large-scale conflict in the region. Meanwhile, Japan and Australia, which have strategic interests in the area, might increase military cooperation with the U.S. and the Philippines. Conclusion. If a war between China and the Philippines were to occur, the impact would be significant and widespread, affecting various aspects such as military, economic, social, and geopolitical. Militarily, the Philippines would likely face significant difficulties due to the disparity in military strength. China has a significant advantage in both the quantity and quality of its military assets, including naval, air, and advanced military technology. Although the Philippines possesses some military assets and support from allies like the United States, it remains in a weak defensive position. Economically, such a war would disrupt major trade routes in the South China Sea, one of the busiest maritime routes in the world. This disruption would impact global trade, potentially causing commodity prices to rise and reducing economic stability in the region. Additionally, economic sanctions from various countries and international organizations against the party perceived to have triggered the conflict could worsen the economic situation for both involved nations. The social and humanitarian impacts of this war would also be severe. There would undoubtedly be casualties among both military personnel and civilians, and waves of refugees would seek shelter in neighboring countries. The resulting humanitarian crisis would require international aid in the form of medical assistance, food, and shelter for those affected by the war. Geopolitically, the involvement of the United States as a key ally of the Philippines could escalate the conflict, involving other global powers such as ASEAN member countries, Japan, India, and Australia. This conflict has the potential to disrupt regional and even global stability, given the strategic importance of the South China Sea in the global geopolitical landscape. Overall, a war between China and the Philippines would bring highly detrimental consequences for both countries and the international community. Therefore, it is crucial for all parties to prioritize diplomatic efforts and peaceful dispute resolution to maintain regional and global stability and prosperity. Diplomacy and dialogue are key to avoiding this highly detrimental scenario, ensuring that the interests of all parties can be met without resorting to violence. That concludes our analysis. We hope it is useful. Once again, this video is solely for educational purposes and is not intended to be controversial or propaganda. Like this video if you enjoyed it, comment if you have any feedback or responses, subscribe to our channel if you find it beneficial, and share our video as much as possible. Thank you, and see you in the next video.